Hey y'all, welcome back to another stream. Told you I'll get some sort of writing stream in. I'm not actually writing today as much as editing. I'm actually on the very last chapter of the book I'm posting to Railroad. So I kind of want to keep that one under wraps for now. So instead of streaming my writing, I'm streaming my editing today. There you are! The hubby has some work commitment type things after work, so he's just doing dinner with co-workers. So I've got a bit of extra time, so I figured I'd go ahead and do that here. So as you can see, it's kind of a mess. It's even more of a mess on the stuff that you can't see, but that's okay. I'll make sure I can see chat if anybody pops in. Alright, so we got notes, a to-do list. Yeah, this is going to require some heavy editing. Sorry. What I think we should do, / what I should do, is probably just go through this line and just read it and get myself reacclimated to it, because it's been a minute. I've been living in my fantasy story for a bit. Speaking of the fantasy story, let me go ahead and be a little bit of a self-promotion. I can type. There we go. Alright. Now we've got the self-promotion out of the way. Alright, let's go ahead and get some reading in. So this is titled To Be Determined for the Now's Community Story. I'm liking a mess of paint and paper, but that's also the first chapter. So let me know what y'all think. Okay. Sylvia Mulligan was a young woman. She aspired to be an artist, but had one problem. Can't ever seem to get out of her own way, her mother criticized, leading into the room where Sylvia had run to for shelter. She was curled up on her bed with her blanket wrapped around her tightly. The young woman. You don't know that? She yelled back. Oh, whose name was it on the paperwork that still hasn't been sent out to the university? Mother snapped. It's 2 weeks past due, and this is the second extension. Sylvia shrugged. I don't know, she said, her tone sullen. I forget. She provided her, same excuse she always did. Then set reminders. I do. And then I do something else. And then I forget again. Sylvia rambled, rubbing the inside of the blanket that she was cocooned in. I didn't mean to, or I don't mean to. It just happens. Well, then maybe write reminders in more conspicuous places so you'll see them even after you get distracted by something else. Her mother sighed and suggested. I don't like that. Her mother sighed. Her mother suggested with a sigh. This was not the first time she had made a suggestion like this. I try, Sylvia commented, her voice almost a whimper. This was not the first time she had attempted to work with that suggestion. Somehow, it always seemed to fail. It doesn't work. We bought you a nice planner. Don't you use that? Yes, except I always keep it closed, so I don't always know what's on the agenda. Make a habit out of looking at it every morning, her mother suggested. Again, not for the first time. I try, but sometimes I forget. Also, I forget to write things down in it too. Her mother let out a heavy sigh at that admission, though she was not surprised by it. Sylvia, you're never going to be able to make it on your own if you can't figure out a way to handle deadlines and appointments by yourself, she said, defeated. No, Sylvia responded, shrinking more into herself. I'm trying, though. What have you done to try? Well, Sylvia started, I do look at the agenda, sometimes. And I do try to remember to write things down when they come up. It's just, if I don't write it down, I forget about it. And then if I forget to look at the agenda, I forget about it even more. Her mother let out another sigh. Have you done anything else other than trying to use the agenda, or your memory? Celia shook her head. Her shoulder length. I put the wrong spot. Like blonde. Hair getting. Not tangled. Getting knotted. Rubbing against the blanket with emotion. Hold on. Nothing was fine the first time. For some reason, I kept thinking she was under the blanket, but she's not under the blanket. Wisps of shoulder-length blonde hair flowing with emotion. Everyone says the agenda books are the best thing to use. I don't see how they do it, though. What about the calendar in your phone? Or just setting a reminder through Alexa? Her mom suggested. Her mom asked. Her dad has suggested that before. So it's likely that's where her mother's suggestion came from. I don't like the phone calendar, Sylvia complained. I tried using the reminder app, but it doesn't like to listen to me while I'm at school. Also, I'm not allowed to pull it out when I'm at school now. Right, the new restrictions, her mother nodded, referring to the new rules the school district put in place at the start of the school year. Students could have phones on them in the event of an emergency. They were otherwise expected to be put away at all times. The faculty and staff were permitted to take away any phone they saw while on the school property, provided that no discernible emergency was taking place. While that makes it harder, it shouldn't be impossible. Portfolio deadline wouldn't have mattered if you were in school or not. I'm pretty sure that date was originally in early August, before school even started. I'm going to say this semester. Before the semester even started. Sylvia froze for a moment, and nodded. Then nodded. It was. I think I just forgot. Your mother is now leaning on the door for support. What are we going to do with you? The teenage girl only shrugged in response. Just a teenager. Well, tomorrow after school, you and I have a date with the post office. Whatever you have ready, we'll be sending off. You understand? This time Sylvia nodded. She looked over at the desk she had in the corner opposite of her bed. It was a mess of paint and paper, often in the middle of some project or another. She had plenty of finished pieces, but she wasn't sure which works she wanted to present to the Academy of the Arts. They were all in an unorganized pile of work. Once something had dried, she took a look at it. Once they had dried, she took a look at it. If she was happy with it, she put it in the pile. If she was unhappy with it, that's capital. If she was unhappy with it, she would just throw it away. Although more art was discarded than kept, the remaining pile was much larger than something she cared to sit and go through. That was honestly what was taking her so long. She needed to find the time and willpower to go through that pile and find the best of the best. They were all her precious creations. How could she only pick 5 to show off? She looked at her mother, who was looking back at her with concern. What's the problem? Can't I just give them the top 5 of the pile? Sylvia asked. No, you cannot, her mother answered with a firm shake of the head. Why not? You want to make sure you put the best foot forward. Otherwise, they won't give you a second chance, her mother tried to explain. That gave her pause. The Academy of the Arts was not just some organization that didn't know her. Okay, why do I have this highlighted? What is pink? Rephrase, rename. And I have it up here too somewhere. I literally just read it. Right here, Academy of the Arts. Why did I... I think because it's a placeholder name, maybe? I don't know. I'll highlight it here too. Anyway, the Academy of the Arts, I might just use somebody's last name. It was not just some organization that didn't know her. They were an organization that didn't know her. They were an organization that didn't know her, but one it was not just some organization that didn't know her. They were organizations that didn't know her that she wanted to attend. Here. That she dreamed of attending. She knew that she could learn better techniques if she attended. She had the chance to go there. They were in an art school. They seemed understanding that if she needed to extensions for the deadline. don't like how it's phrased. They were in our school. They were in our school. Oh, here. Of course, they would understand that she needed 2 extensions for the deadline. I think it'll be fine, Sylvia commented with a shrug. Sylvia, competing against possibly hundreds of other people for a position at the academy. If you don't put your best foot forward and show them the best of what you can accomplish, they're going to choose someone else who they believe will be more of a benefit to the school. They're willing to teach, but only for students who showed the most promise. If you're not willing to cultivate your work to show off the pieces that would impress them and make them believe that you have that promise, they're not going to bother trying to teach you. They're going to select someone with a high level of talent or promise already, so that person can reach the pinnacle of their craft, her mother explained, with a sigh in her voice. What I'm saying is, you have to put in the work. Sylvia groaned. She had always known this was the right thing to do. She knew that she had to pick favorites among her work, and she also knew that there were already a few that she did like more than others. She was just hesitant to begin the task as much as it needed to be done. She just didn't want to. She just didn't want to begin as much as it needed to be done. Fine, I'll do it, she relented with a huff. Think of it as a trip down memory lane, her mother smiled, having finally won the battle. I'm sure you'll be able to narrow down the top 5 tonight. Put them on the dining table, and tomorrow I'll pick you up from school, and we'll take the package to the post office. A hesitant nod, Sylvia unwrapped herself from her blanket and started moving toward her art desk. Yes, Mom. Alright. Decreased yield. The next day at school, Sylvia was laying her head on her desk, her head in the crook of her arm. She was listening to the teacher, Miss Taylor. Why did I spell it like that? That's so silly. Miss Taylor drone on about diminishing returns while in her economics class. Was that she didn't respect Miss Taylor? Is that unless they were doing something she could follow along with easily, she had a better time picturing the discussion than jotting it down. Usually after a lecture, they would do some sample charts. This allowed Sylvia to better understand what was being talked about as she combined the visual representation with what the teacher was explaining about. I don't like that it's recorded. Sylvia was able to use those to understand what was being to understand the lecture. When she could combine visual representation with what the teacher was explaining. Here we go. Before that, though, she always had a difficult time following along, unless she blocked out everything else. Miss Mulligan, am I boring you? Miss Taylor's accusatory voice was directed at the young woman. Sitting up suddenly, Sylvia brushed her hair out of her face and shook her head. No, I'm not bored. I'm just trying to follow along. With your head down and eyes closed. Yes. What was I just talking about? Diminishing returns? The much older woman's face soured and she cleared her throat, more to get the attention of all the students in the room than to actually clear it. What about diminishing returns specifically? Sylvia's brows furrowed as she tried to remember the name. She let out a slow exhale and then answered, Something about decreased yield? Are you guessing? No, I remember you were talking about decreased yield, but I don't recall exactly what. And this, Miss Mulligan, is why you don't sleep in class. Be like everyone else and take notes. Notes help you remember better than dreams do, I promise. A few muffled snickers that Sylvia heard. That Sylvia heard were enough to get her to shrink down into her seat. The notebook and pen were out of her desk, with a couple of lines already written down from the start of the lecture. Mostly they were about diminishing returns, and the need to properly adjust when never increasing output or input. Sylvia read over the notes and knew that they meant nothing to her. Still, the teacher wanted her to pretend that taking notes would be the better way to follow along, and so she began to write down everything she could from Miss Taylor's lecture. Let me jump up real quick. Cast of characters. Miss Taylor, age, ancient economics teacher. Alright, back to chapter 2. You know what? I want to do this real quick. Taylor. I'm doing it this way because in case I have a real Taylor. Play softball. Okay, cool. Sylvia kept her eyes on the lines of the notebook as she tried to follow along with the teacher. More than once, she found that once she was done writing a sentence, or what she remembered of what the teacher said, Miss Taylor had already continued on in the lesson, and Sylvia felt like she was missing valuable information between what she had just jotted down and what was now being discussed. Let me rephrase that a little bit. What she remembered. Miss Taylor had already well into the next segment of the lesson. There we go. I feel like that's a little bit more cohesive. Sylvia felt like she was missing valuable information between what she had just jotted down and what was being discussed. At one point, Sylvia stopped writing altogether and just tried to listen with her eyes focused on the lines of the paper. How much time had lapsed between when she was writing and when she noticed the teacher's new topic? As far as she could tell, she wasn't missing any information as long as she only listened. Miss Taylor wasn't talking very terribly quickly. She also wasn't taking time to pause and let the students absorb the information either. Sylvia picked up her pencil again and tried once more to follow along while taking notes. As she did this, she found that once she started writing, it was as if there was a barrier preventing hearing what was being said. She paused what she was writing. It probably wouldn't make sense if she had gone back to read it anyway, and just try to listen to what the teacher was saying while making a circle on the paper. She felt like she was able to hear a bit more with that, but there were still gaps where she was having difficulty hearing what the teacher was saying. Was it because she was concentrating too much on writing or drawing on the paper? Sylvia could only assume that this was the case. It was what the teacher wanted her to do, so that's what she would do. Even if she did end up missing half of what was being said. These are short chapters. I know they get a little longer later, though, I think. How long are these chapters? Never a lot. They're gonna do that under. 1,300 words. 100 words. Oof. I think Okay, yeah, I think I understand what happened here. It's fine. I might go back to the character viewpoint, or maybe just we could go from Sylvia's viewpoint and do dates and times and such. Anyway. That is a to be determined thing, though. After class, Sylvia. Sylvia slung her backpack over her shoulder and started to make her way to the lockers. 2 more classes, and she would be able to go home and take a nap. After. What that was. After she went to the post office with her mom. Remembering the night before, sitting on her bedroom floor, sorting through all sorts of gorgeous paintings that she had created, she smiled and yawned. Oh man. I gotta have my character stop yawning. It took her way too long, but she was finally able to select 5 paintings that she felt not only were the best, but also had represented the way she approached painting as well. She knew the selection committee at the academy would be impressed by them. This afternoon, she and her mother would be taking the selected paintings to the post office with the rest of her packet to be sent off. Sylvia frowned. She did put them on the dining room table, didn't she? She shook her head. It was too late to worry about it now. If she didn't, then her mom would probably yell at her again, and then they'd have to go home so they could locate the paintings before going to the post office. Hey, you're Sylvia, right? A voice came from behind her. The blonde teenager turned around and blinked at another young woman who was about her same height, but was more slender, and had brunette hair that was pulled back into a ponytail. She barely recognized this girl. She barely recognized this girl. So she recalled that this girl had transferred into the school about a month ago, right after the start of the semester, and they had shared a couple of classes, including economics, together. Yeah, Sylvia asked cautiously. That's weird. Answered cautiously. She hoisted her backpack across both of her shoulders as she assessed the girl in front of her. The other girl didn't seem to notice Sylvia looking her over and reached out a hand to shake. I'm Vanessa, she said amiably. Still uncertain, but not wanting to be rude, Sylvia reached out and shook Vanessa's hand. Nice to meet you, she stated, polite, but still cautious. I'm gonna cut out the polite because obviously if she's not wanting to be rude, she's gonna be polite. Okay, she stated, still cautious. Vanessa shook the hand in return, but did not release it immediately. I noticed you're always sleeping in class. It's not sleeping, Sylvia cut in, now annoyed. She forcibly freed herself from the other girl's grasp. I just wanted to know if you've seen anyone about it, Vanessa commented, visibly surprised at the other girl's reaction. You don't seem like the type who would have something like apnea, but it could still affect people in a surprising way. Apnea? Sylvia asked, not sure what the word meant, or why this new girl was bringing it up. My dad's a doctor, she explained. He treats people with sleep apnea all the time. It makes people fall asleep in the oddest situations. Even if they're not sleeping, it could make them more prone to tiredness throughout the day, she rushed to add. Sorry, Vanessa, Sylvia shook her head. That doesn't sound like me. Like I said, I'm not sleeping. I'm just listening with my head down. She turned and started toward her next class. She saw a friend of hers. Lucy, on the opposite side of the hallway. Nope. Lucy's becoming Luke. and gave him a brief wave before she started down the hall toward the corridor, which would take her to her next class. Okay, so as the characters, Luke. Friend of Sylvia's. Age 17. Friend of Sylvia's. Not much. In the story. Alright, so. After economics, sixth period is history or math. Sorry for all the jumping around. Let's see. Statistics. Her statistics. Class. She saw a friend of hers, Luke, on the opposite side of the hallway and gave him a brief wave. Before she started down the hall. Oh, the next class. No, here we go. Let's keep him in here, but she started on just leading to a friend of hers, Luke, as she passed him. There we go. She started down the hall toward the corridor, which would take her to her next class. Leading to people she knew along the way. There we go. Vanessa apparently wasn't going to take no for an answer, whatever the question actually was. That's a weird way to say it. She followed Sylvia, not staying more than a foot away from her. Why would you do something like that if you weren't tired? And for a short chapter, it's going to get cut down even more. It helps me think, Sylvia responded curtly. That's silly. How does laying your head down make you think? Every time I lay my head down, I'm tempted to fall asleep. I think that's why everyone thinks you're trying to sleep. I know! Sylvia huffed and spun around to face Vanessa, who took a defensive step backward. Just because they think that doesn't make it true. I've never fallen asleep in class. Vanessa just stood there, eyes wide open, stammering. Sorry, she eventually apologized as she took another step backward. I didn't realize it bothered you so much. It's fine, Sylvia shook her head. You won't be the first person to think that I had problems with sleeping in class, and you probably won't be the last. Why? Vanessa started, and then caught herself and began differently. Can I ask you something else? Sylvia glanced at her watch. There were only 2 minutes left until the bell rang again, and she'd be late for class. Still, she didn't want to be any ruder than she already felt like she was being. With a reluctant sigh, she answered, One more question. I'm going to be late. Oh, sorry. Vanessa apologized again. 1 sec. My class is right here, so I guess I didn't consider that yours might be further away. Fighting back an acidic response, Sylvia just asked, What question did you have? I was curious about why laying down helps you think, instead of sitting up like everyone else. Vanessa answered. Sylvia shrugged again. It just does. It helps me focus, or something like that, I think. Look, I've got to get going to class now. Right. Vanessa acknowledged with a nod, though it seemed she seemed to still be. It seemed like she was still processing the response. I'll see you around? Yeah, Sylvia answered politely, and turned around to hurry to class. To hurry to class. Oh, excuse me. Just making sure that's 6th period. Okay, it doesn't say what period this is. Good. Again, sorry for the jumping around. The rest of the day went by in a blur. Sylvia's 6th period statistics teacher generally did not mind students who were sneaking in right after the bell rang, so although Sylvia was only a few seconds behind the others, there were no repercussions in her slight tardiness. Today's lecture was about the importance of sample data. Although Sylvia generally understood the concept and she was able to follow along with the teacher in the textbook, she was finding herself distracted by the pictures of random groups of people that were included. Some of the people in those pictures were distracting. Maybe a visual representation of what bad data would look like, but it was enough to make Sylvia lose sight of what the teacher was discussing. She'd have to take some time to reread that portion of the chapter when she got home today. Her last class was her favorite, art. In this class, she allowed the stress of the day to melt away. Oh, good music timing. And she could focus on whatever project she had in front of her. Today, she was making a painting that featured all different shades of blue. It had started off as a skyscape of different towering buildings, jutting up into the sky. But after she got it started, it found itself morphing into a medieval castle, with somber elements as tops of flower-covered caskets stood out in the foreground. Before she knew it, the teacher was ringing her handbell to warn that the end of the period was coming up quickly. She wasn't even finished the second casket yet. Still, it was time for her to clean up for the day. We don't need that last line. With a sigh, she put up her supplies and then set her painting on a rack to dry and be protected while she was away overnight. She then picked up her backpack and made her way to the door where the other students in the class were beginning to congregate in anticipation of the final bell. Finally, it rang. Finally, it rang, and the doors opened, spilling the teenagers out into a hallway that was filled with similar activity. From the doorways, rivers of boys and girls commingled, often creating new rivers that went one way or another. Sometimes the flow would stop and force other rivers to adjust around them. It was a routine that occurred every weekday that school was in session. Sylvia was the lone element in the river flow, making her way to her locker and standing as close to it as possible to avoid interrupting anyone else's travels. She opened the locker and set the books from the last half of the day inside. Then she pulled her statistics book back out, remembering that she needed to reread portions of the data sampling chapter. She paused and looked over the other books in the locker as well, wondering if there might be something else she would need to bring home with her too. She briefly paused on her government book, but ultimately decided that it wouldn't be worth it. She was caught up on work in the class. The teacher didn't have any homework for tonight, so why would she bring that home when she didn't need to? Plus, statistics would be taking up a lot of her free time, so she might not even be able to crack the book open. That was that. After zipping up her backpack with the singular textbook inside, she closed her locker, set the lock in place, and made her way to the front of the school. Her mother was going to come and pick her up today so they could get to the post office and deliver the submission package for the Academy of the Arts. She wandered to the benches where all of the other students whose parents picked them up were seated, and took her own seat, beginning to feel self-conscious. Normally, Sylvia took the bus home, since she opted not to learn how to drive. That already made her feel self-conscious. There were no other seniors who took the bus. They all drove. Except her. Over time, though, she got used to the people who she rode the bus with, and that made her feel a bit more at ease with her transportation method. With her chosen. She didn't know most of these students who she joined in the car loop. To them, she was probably just some new girl they didn't know, sitting on the far side of one of the back benches. Sylvia took a deep breath and held it for a moment before releasing it. Well, they didn't know her, and she didn't know them. It was just for today anyway. It would be fine. Sylvia? A newly familiar voice asked from somewhere in the din behind her. Curious to see if the voice really belonged to the person she thought it did, Sylvia turned around and blinked at the equally curious brunette. Vanessa? The brunette squeezed through a couple of groups of students and helped herself to the open seat next to the already uncomfortable young woman. What are you doing there? I didn't know you were a car rider. She had no problems beginning small talk. I'm not. Not normally, Sylvia answered with a shrug. Mom's picking me up today. Ooh, I actually want to make a note here. Sure, she could get a ride with Luke or Casey sometime. But she didn't want to inconvenience them when they had obligations. It was fine. It was fine though. Over time, she got used to the people that made her feel. There we go. Anyway, back to where I left off. Brunette squeezed through a couple of groups of students and helped herself to the open seat next to the already uncomfortable young woman. What are you doing here? I didn't know you were a car rider. She had no problems beginning small talk. I'm not. Not normally, Sylvia answered with a shrug. Mom's picking me up today. I see. Are you normally a car rider? I am, Vanessa confirmed. Wait, what grade are you in? Sylvia assumed Vanessa was in the same grade she was, since they shared a couple of classes together. Most of the subjects in this school were grouped by graduating class, so it was uncommon for multiple graduating classes to end up in the same classroom. I'm a senior, she answered with a shrug, almost as if she didn't care that she was one of the older students who needed to be picked up. Sylvia was tempted to ask why Vanessa wasn't driving herself home, but knew that if she didn't have a good reason, Vanessa might not either. Sylvia just stayed silent with a nod. How do you normally get home? Vanessa asked anyway. No use in lying, as much as she wanted to. She had a feeling that even if she were to even stretch the truth, it would come out at some point. I take the bus, she admitted, almost blurting it out like a confession. Oh, that's cool, Vanessa said nonchalantly. Except for field trips when I was younger, I've never been on a bus. What's it like? Pretty much the same as field trips, Sylvia answered. Some days are pretty rowdy, but most are pretty quiet. Most people tend to keep to themselves and aren't too loud. Loud? Vanessa asked. Does it get loud on the bus, even when it's not rowdy? Sometimes, Sylvia shrugged. I try to ignore it if I can. Sometimes you can't, though, but the driver usually comes in at that point to get them to quiet down. To get people to quiet down. To get us to quiet down. I see. The brunette mused over what she was told for a moment, her head down in contemplation. I don't like that. Is it crowded? The school bus? No, not really. It's not empty either, but there's usually maybe 1 or 2 free seats if people sit next to each other. That sounds comfortable. It can be, Sylvia admitted. If it gets too loud, I don't like it, but that doesn't happen too often. Usually it's the last day of school or something. Usually it's the last day of school or something when the noise kicks up like that. Are you able to listen to music or something in those cases? No. That cell phone ban apparently extends to buses too. Most of us sneak them out to text and stuff, but I don't think the driver cares. But I'm not going to go as far as putting in earbuds for music. I think that'd be asking for my phone to be taken away. Nah. Yeah, don't want to do that. Here, don't want to risk your phone taken away. It's acknowledged. The two of them lapsed into silence for a few moments, allowing the ruckus of the area to fill the air around them. Finally, Vanessa said, "You're interesting." Excuse me? Sylvia did not expect anyone to call her anything but weird. "You're interesting," Vanessa repeated herself, looking at Sylvia. "You don't try to fit in with the rest of the students. You just do your own thing. And you seem like you're okay with that." In earnest. There we go. Sylvia blinked a couple of times at Vanessa's statement, trying to process it. Aren't we all just doing our thing? Our own thing? Why wouldn't we be okay with that? She was confused. That response prompted a laugh from Vanessa. "I guess we are. But you don't seem like you care about trends or anything. Like the thing in economics earlier. Most people don't try to think of..." I need to double check to see if classes are capitalized or not. I feel like I looked this up already, but I don't remember. Most people don't try to think in ways that are good for them. Like, they just do what they grew up with, which is sitting up and taking notes. Does laying down really work like that? Sylvia shrugged. Sort of. I can't take notes like that, obviously, but I feel like I remember the discussion much better when it gets talked about later. When it gets brought up later. Good topic. It's a discussion. But I feel like I remember the topic much better when it gets brought up later. If I take notes, it seems like I jot down the things that don't matter much, or just make comments on the things the teacher said, so it doesn't end up being useful to me at all. She paused and frowned. Maybe she should have grabbed the economics book too. I can do things like make displays and charts just fine in the class. I just can't handle when all she does is just read from her notes. Vanessa nodded her understanding. I like it when the teachers are pretty interactive too. Like when they've got us... That's me. Like when they've got projects for us to work on. I like those the best. I don't know if I necessarily learn from them that much better, but I do feel like I'm more engaged. I'd admit on those too, Sylvia agreed. It's just when it's only talk, that's when it's hardest for me. And Miss Taylor doesn't even follow the textbook, so that doesn't help me either. She added the end with a bit of a whine. Vanessa looked over at her with a scrutinizing face. "What?" Sylvia asked, feeling the feeling of self-consciousness coming back. "You are so very interesting," the other girl commented again. "Like a puzzle." "I'm not a puzzle," Sylvia said defensively. "No, I don't mean it like that. I mean, maybe..." She trailed off as Something in the car line caught her attention. "You're not like anyone else I've met before," she stated as she stood up, hoisting an overstuffed backpack over her shoulder. "You're very different, and I find that fascinating." She grinned at the blonde before throwing a thumb in the direction of a shiny, obviously recently waxed SUV. "That's my mom. I'll see you tomorrow." Sylvia, head whirling after the interaction, nodded and waved. "See you tomorrow," she murmured as the new girl turned and made her way to her waiting parent. Left alone now, Sylvia leaned back against the bench and pondered the interaction. She was sure that Vanessa was meaning to be complimentary, but she wasn't entirely sure if she managed to land the sentiment. All Vanessa's well-intentioned compliments did was make Sylvia feel even more awed and self-conscious. If Vanessa thinks she's interesting and unique, maybe a lot of people think that. Sylvia frowned. Did her other friends see her that way too? There wasn't really a lot of time to dwell on the topic. However's and those are my kryptonite, I think. Oh, we're at 51 minutes already. Alright. As she was thinking about the interaction, she saw her mother's Red Town car come into view in the Alright. Wonderful, but frustrating. "Mom?" Sylvia asked, looking out the window as they drove to the post office. "Yes?" her mother asked, sparing her daughter a glance before returning her eyes to the road. "Yes, hon?" Am I weird? The response wasn't a no, or an of course not. It was a moment of silence before another question was asked by her mother. "Why do you ask?" The young woman took a deep breath and then turned in her seat to face her mother. "I was told I was unique today. Like a puzzle. Does that mean I'm weird?" Her mother spared a bit of a longer glance in her direction, an eyebrow raising as she contemplated it. "Well," she began, shifting her seat as she slowed down before a red light. "You definitely aren't like most other girls. Not in the tomboy way either. But that's not a bad thing. I don't know the context of the conversation, but if they said you're like a puzzle, it probably just means that there's something about you that they don't know about, and they would like to. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Do you think I'm weird? Or do you think I'm weird? Weird? No. Like the person you're referring to, though. I do think you're unique." "What?" Sylvia asked, surprise and heartbreak filling the question. "You act like being unique is a bad thing." Her mom took the time at the red light to turn toward her and give her an earnest look. "You think very differently than most people I know. That has its ups and downs, but it also means that you look at the world in a way that most people don't. I know firsthand how frustrating it has been for us to try to get you to conform to the same standards everyone else has. And it's difficult, because the world honestly isn't built to handle people like you. But that's changing. Your unique perspective is going to be one of many that helps change the world. Without people like you, with your unique perspective and viewpoint, we wouldn't have some of the same innovations that we have today. But my being unique creates so many problems," she said meekly. "I got in trouble in class today because my teacher thought I was trying to sleep." "What were you doing?" The light had changed to green, so her mother relaxed back in her seat and began driving. "My head was down. I guess it looked like I was trying to sleep, but I wasn't. I was listening to the teacher because I couldn't concentrate when my head was up," she explained, her voice turned more into a whine as she continued. "She wouldn't listen to me when I told her that's why it was down, and made me sit up to take notes," she huffed. I don't think we need the huff. We know she's whining. Her mother frowned. "I can't change or dictate how teachers decide to run their classrooms, she began. I'm sorry that happened to you. That's just another one of those instances where you may need to try to conform to what the teacher wants. Maybe I'll just keep my head down in every class, Sylvia muttered, crossing her arms over her chest. You can try, her mom said. I don't know what she'll do. Some strict teachers would send you to detention. Do you want that? Or rather, could you handle that? I don't care, she muttered. It's not like it matters. Detentions don't affect school acceptance unless you're aiming for something top-notch, or have a bajillion of them. How do you know? I just know. Sylvia shifted in her seat. She might have been repeating something another student told her. Luke and Casey in there one way or another. Excuse me. Do you want to find out the hard way if it's true or not? Her mother challenged her. I'd rather not, Sylvia said with a shrug. I like the class. I don't want to get the teacher too mad at me. I don't think she likes me anyway, but I don't want to miss it because she thinks I'm being rude. I don't want to fail. I don't want to get in trouble. What are you about missing school for? Yoink. So, what are you going to do about it? Huh? Well, we discussed that you're unique and how wonderful but frustrating it is, she pointed out. And then you mentioned this class where you're having the issue of being too unique, where it's obviously frustrating both you and the teacher. If you're not going to push your limits to test to see how far you can take laying your head down for listening purposes, then you've got to figure out what else you're going to do. That's awkward. If you're not going to push her limits to test, if you're not going to test, if you're not going to test and see how far you can take laying your head down, then you've got to figure out what else you're going to do. I think I'll just sit up and take bad notes, Sylvia said, defeated. Bad notes? Her mother asked, her tone turning almost accusatory. Yeah, not on purpose, she rushed, defending against her mother's tone. I mean, my notes aren't the best when I take notes. I see other people's notes and they're colored and highlighted and there's bullet points and so much organization. Mine are, well, they're in a list, but they're not as organized. Or in sentences. They're in list or in sentences, but they're not organized. They're all over the place. Mom, my last note in that class for today said something about how diminishing returns diminishes my ability to focus. Her mother did her best to stifle a chuckle. Instead, there's some shallow laughter she was failing to hide. She managed to say, maybe the notes aren't as bad as you think. What you just said seems to be on point. Is it? Sylvia blinked. I was just writing about how tough of a time I was having following lectures. Or lecture. Well, even if it's by chance, it seems like you got the concept. At least in a rudimentary way. She thought for a second. This is regular economics, right? Yeah. Then you should be fine. I think you got the concept. It's future topics that you might have issues in, though. Sylvia sighed heavily. Now and always, she lamented. Maybe you'll find another way that seems to work for you, her mother suggested. when that doesn't involve you laying your head down. Are there any other times when you seem to be doing well? Well, I was talking to Vanessa earlier, she said in thought. I think we agreed that we do pretty well when the teacher is engaging. I think engaging is an adult word. The teacher has us doing projects and stuff. Vanessa? Oh, the girl who sat us a puzzle, Sylvia explained. Oh. Her mother took a few moments before stating or asking. Asking? Come on, it's not a statement. Before asking, what happens if the teacher doesn't do projects or engage the class like you need them to? Her mother was challenging her to find a way to make taking notes more productive for herself. She just knew it. Sylvia just knew it. Laying down allowed her to focus on the words, but if she were to write what she was hearing, she would often lose track of what the teacher was saying because she was focusing too hard on the first concept and would not move swiftly to the next concepts. At least in math, the teachers always wrote what they were talking about on the board, so there's time to catch up. I don't know. I think maybe I write too slowly. This verbiage. Too slow. So that's a problem? Why not try shorthand? Huh? Her mother suggested. Huh? Sylvia asked. She had never heard of that. Why not try shorthand? She repeated herself. No, I heard you, Sylvia shook her head. I just don't know what shorthand is, she explained. You don't? Her mother blinked, shot her another glance, and then returned her focus to the road. The post office was on the outskirts of town, so it took nearly 10 minutes to get there by car from the high school. No, I don't think I've heard about it before today, she admitted. Her mother let out a long, suffering sigh. So many things are being forgotten, she lamented to herself. So much lament. Mom? It's fine. Anyway, shorthand is a way of writing. You don't write full words, you essentially write in abbreviations or symbols instead of words. Like N/A for not applicable? Exactly. Except it'll be for much more than that. Shorthand is not standardized, so you can create something for yourself that only you can understand. That's what matters. Just don't turn in any tests with it. The teacher might not understand. What you're trying to say. Your teacher might not understand what you're trying to say. Sylvia giggled. I see. So, what would the house is on the hill look like for you? Her mom shrugged. I don't know. That one seems fairly simple to write as is. Maybe THHOUO/ and then the hill without shorthand. Again, it would have to be something that that you can understand and decipher later. Sylvia nodded, thinking to herself. That seemed to make sense. Maybe it was something she could try. You mentioned something earlier that I wanted to suggest to ask about. Her mother commented as she took the turn off of the main highway. What's that? Have you tried color coding your notes? I bet some of your classmates do, but maybe it'll help keep the notes interesting. So I thought maybe it'll help keep notes interesting for you. Have you tried color coding your notes? Maybe it'll help keep notes interesting for you. Sylvia sighed. I felt like her mom wasn't listening to her problems at all. It wasn't that taking notes wasn't interesting. It was that she was slow at it. Yes, Mom. I've tried using different colored pens to take notes. And even slower with that. Even slower when I do that. Oh. The rest of the trip to the post office was done in silence. Finally, the car parked in the front, spacious parking lot of the closest park. Yeah, wow. There's a lot of fluff in here. Finally, the car parked in the front, spacious parking lot of the post office. And her mother motioned for Sylvia to pull the packet out of the back seat. Sylvia nodded, got out of the car, and pulled out a large manila envelope from the back seat. You found them? In the middle of school today, I had a feeling I forgot to put them on the table, she commented, looking over the envelope. Her mother had already sealed it and added the address. All that was left was to send it off. Her mother let out a tired sigh as she closed the door to her seat and walked around the car. You did forget to put them on the table. Don't worry, I found the pile still on your floor when I checked your room. At least you kept them separated from the rest. Sylvia furrowed her brows and thought. Did she leave the pile on the floor? She thought that's where she left a few different piles, but not her selection pile. Still, she might be misremembering. After all, how many piles of 5 paintings? How many piles of just 5 paintings would she have on the ground? She remembers some of those other piles getting pretty large with the amount of paintings she was adding to them. Maybe she did leave her selection on the ground after all. She eyeballed the seal of the envelope. It was adhered shut, so there was no way she would be able to open and reseal it without buying a new envelope. There's a gut feeling that she should really check on what was inside the package. Mom? She asked, her fingers already inching toward the edge of the seal. Yes? Can I check inside? No, I've already sealed it, her mother said with an air of exasperation. The post office doesn't sell this size of envelopes, so they would have to go all the way to the store and back again to mail your paintings. Don't worry, I'm sure they're the right ones. Her stomach said otherwise, but Sylvia nodded. Okay, her mother seemed so sure. So she would trust her mother. Besides, she was still certain that all her awesome art would impress us at the academy. So even if her mother chose incorrectly, it should not have any negative impact. I want to rewrite this before we wrap up. Besides, even if her mother did pick up the long pile, should not make any difference. There we go. Alright, so what is... Okay, so we got chapter 8 DVD. Oh, this doesn't even have a... a lot of stuff to do. Yeah, I might need to just put this into something like what's it called? Y-Writer, and just arrange the scenes. That's what's holding me up with these things here. The yellow view work ad removed, yeah. Alright. Okay, guys, so thank you for joining me tonight. I appreciate y'all joining me for this edit session. I will be back tomorrow with some Grand Blue Fantasy in the afternoon. So until then, have a good evening, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!